This is our 2025 Lexus NX 250, and I did a preliminary, kind of a first impression review of this a few months ago when we first got the car. I think we might have only had a couple of hundred miles on the car. And now we have about 1,800 miles on the car. It's been several months that we've lived with it. We don't drive a lot of miles, but we've put enough miles on it to now we kind of know what we got with this car. This is our third NX and probably our 8th or 9th Lexus. We've been a Lexus family for 30 years. I haven't owned any other vehicle brand for 30 years. So what do I think about this Lexus NX 250? And I guess the main question is, like I asked in my first video, is this still a premium brand? Now, if you haven't seen my original review of this car, I'll put a link to it up in the corner of this video. And if you enjoyed this video, please do me a favor, subscribe to this new channel, and don't forget to click the like button if you like it. One of the things that really surprised me about this car, and I have to give you a little background, when we picked up the vehicle from the dealership, it was late in the afternoon, almost getting dark in the wintertime in September, and we really didn't have a chance to see it other than under the showroom lights, and really didn't have a chance to do a great inspection. But I've never had an issue with Lexus as far as paint quality. But I got to tell you, this NX 250, which was made in Canada, I should point out, we thought we were getting an NX that was made in Japan, and I don't know that this would have been an issue. The orange peel on this paint is worse than any car I think I've ever owned. And there are places on the paint where the finish actually almost looks dull. It just is not that deep, rich, clear coat that you expect on a Lexus. I was very disappointed in the paint. I'm really big on the visual aspects of a car. And had I seen it and really inspected it like I should have, like I say, we've had so many Lexuses, it's never been an issue. We've always had excellent paint on every Lexus we've ever owned. But this one, unfortunately, is very disappointing. I was even ceramic coating the roof of the car, and there are some what look like burn marks from a buffing wheel or something. I mean, it just is really not good. It doesn't give me any joy to make this video because I've had such an interesting history with Lexus. 30 years, we haven't owned any other vehicle brand other than Lexus. And I think I've owned 8 or 9 different ones. This is our third NX. I think the first one we had was a naturally aspirated NX back in 2017. And then we had a 2020 turbo. And then we have this naturally aspirated Lexus NX. Before that, we had a series of ES350s. We've had an RX. So we've had a variety of different models along the Lexus brand. And honestly, I have never had a complaint with Lexus. I've always loved the brand. We've always had a great experience. I bought every single vehicle, or leased every single vehicle, from the same salesperson at the same dealership over that 30-year period. So to have anything to complain about is very unusual. Just never had a complaint. Never had a warranty claim on a Lexus in that 30-year period up until this car. I did take the car in for warranty. The first complaint I had, which you may have seen in my original review video, was with the door trim here. It was just annoying me. It was so annoying to see that flaw in this little decorative panel that every time I got in the car, every time I looked at it, and it was on the door, driver's and passenger door, and the rear doors as well. And every time I'd get in the car, I'd see that, and it would just grate on me because it looked so unprofessional. It just didn't look. I don't particularly like this decorative panel anyway. I think it looks kind of amateurish, and it's glossy, and I don't know what the pattern's supposed to be. It doesn't look like wood grain. It's just some sort of geometric pattern. And I much prefer the carbon fiber look on the F Sport. So I really think Lexus should rethink this whole thing. The other criticism I have with the interior of this vehicle is this new Lux. I call it no Lux. What I guess they call it leather, but it's not leather. It's fake leather, which I guess means it's kind of like a vinyl. And I talked about that in my first video. I'm not a fan, even though I will have to say the seats are pretty comfortable. They're relatively, cool in the summertime. We haven't had excessive heat yet because we got the car in September. But they are, the cushioning is pretty good. The bolstering's good. The seats are both electrically adjustable. Passenger and driver are electronically adjustable. And, that I do like. I do like the color. I like the fact that they're heated and ventilated. I think that's a nice feature. So I'm trying to tell some of the good along with the bad, because I do find this to be comfortable compared to the other NXs we've had. They've all been comfortable. This one I think is a little bit more comfortable. I also think the ride and the handling may be a little bit improved in this car over our previous ones. The only downside I would say is the engine being I don't know if it's because it's naturally aspirated. It doesn't have a lot of power. It's okay. It's good enough for us. But when you accelerate, it can be a little noisy. You get a lot of engine noise in the cabin. And I think they probably could have done a little better job insulating the firewall or the engine compartment somehow to maybe mitigate some of that sound. But it's not. That wouldn't be a deal killer. Okay, that in and of itself would not be a deal killer. Now, the other thing that I find interesting that is really inexcusable for any car today, much less a Lexus, a premium brand, there is a very noticeable wave. That's all I know to call it. The windshield is not completely flat. It has a deformation in it. When you drive and you're turning and you go by something that's vertical like a lamppost or a tree, you'll see a little wave in the windshield. I've never noticed that in any car I've owned my lifetime. I've never had what I would call a defective windshield. I would almost be tempted to take the car in and have the windshield replaced under warranty, because it is a little annoying, but it's so subtle and you don't notice it all the time. But when you do notice it, it's very annoying. Like I say, I don't even know if they would replace something like that under warranty, because I don't know if they'd be able to determine it. It's very hard to notice. But it's there. I've noticed it many, many times, more than a dozen times. I've noticed that little wave when I move left to right. In fact, I can see it right now. There's a tree across the street. And if I just move left to right, I can see it is not a completely flat windshield. No excuse for that on a brand like this at this price point, or any price point really. Another thing that I find to be a little bit of an annoyance are these electronic door handles and the latches. They're positioned right where my knee sits. So it's very easy for me to hit that with my knee and unlatch the door. Now, fortunately, the doors won't just fly open. They have like a double. If you hit this right now, you can see I can't open the door, but it's loose. I have to hit it again to actually open the door. The door handles used to be up here, the latches, and I don't know why they changed it, just change for the sake of change. And they also give you a way to manually open the door with a mechanical lever. You just pull on this little lever twice. But why do it at all? I mean, it really was technology just for the sake of technology. I'm not a huge fan of the way they do the cruise control now. It's up here on this steering wheel with all the other switches and buttons, and I was so used to, for decades, having the cruise control down here on that little separate switch, that little post down below the windshield wiper. I keep looking for that, and it's not there anymore. They moved it up here. And like I say, again, why change it? It's been working fine for decades, but they did. The cruise control works fine. It's got adaptive cruise, which is nice. Our last NX had that as well. Of course, I've already mentioned our disdain for the auto start stop feature. You can turn it off every time, but you have to do it every time you start the car, which to me is an annoyance. I don't like it. Minimal benefit. To me, it's going to put more strain on the starter, more strain on the engine. It's really not so much for gas mileage. It's more like an emission thing for cars that are in traffic for a long period of time at stoplights. I understand why they do it, but it should be an option to turn it off. Just my opinion. So the biggest problem that I have with this car, and the one thing that would have been a deal killer had I known about this when we picked up the car. We didn't know it. Let me just give you a little background. We picked up this car the day before we left the country for 3 weeks. So we picked it up that evening. We parked it in the garage. We left town for Europe. We were gone for 18 days. When we got back is when I really had a chance to spend some time with the car and discover some of these issues. And the number one issue that I have with this NX 250 is the fact that Apple CarPlay does not work. It partially works, but doesn't do what you expect Apple CarPlay to do. When I brought this up the first time with the dealership, the technical support guy, I guess they call it, they try to kind of blame it on your iPhone, but it's not the iPhone. And I should also mention they have Android Auto as well. But I use an iPhone, so I'm talking about Apple CarPlay. I don't know if this is a problem with Android Auto. It may be. If you want to send or receive texts, it does not work. It does not mute the volume of the stereo system. So if you're listening to the radio and you want to receive a message or you want to send a message, you're trying to talk over the music. And Apple CarPlay, normally on a normal vehicle, one that's not defective, it mutes the radio so that you can talk and you're just talking to Siri. So when I mentioned this Apple CarPlay issue to my service writer at the dealership, he basically admitted it's an issue. They even gave me a loaner car because when I had these door panels replaced, I had to leave my car overnight. I got a loaner car, which was a 2025 UX, which is the smaller, I guess it almost looks like a station wagon, maybe a sport hatch. I'm not sure what you call it. I paired my iPhone to that sound system and it did the exact same thing. It still does not work. So this is a Lexus-wide issue. You can spend $130,000 on a Lexus and you're still not going to be able to send and receive texts with Apple CarPlay. As I stated in my first video, I think I stated this, but I'll state it now. I would not have accepted delivery of this car. If we had brought the car home and had been in the country and I had noticed this 2 or 3 days after we took delivery of the car, I would have returned the car and tried to undo the deal. It's that big of a deal killer. I can buy a $30,000 or $25,000 Hyundai and it has Apple CarPlay that works. My Honda Goldwing motorcycle has Apple CarPlay and it works flawlessly. So there's no excuse, in my opinion, why Lexus has not resolved this issue, and that would have been a deal killer. I would not have bought the car just because of that. We would have gone and looked for another brand. As a result, we're actually thinking about, maybe in a year, I don't know what the financial ramifications are on a lease. We have a 3-year lease. We would consider trading this car in on a different vehicle from a different company. Probably will never own another Lexus just because of that issue. And that's a shame because we have a long history with Lexus. And we've always loved the brand, always had but there's no excuse in 2025 for this car not to have the technology comparable to what even an average entry-level brand would have. So anyway, I'm not a professional car reviewer. But that is my review, my follow-up, more or less a long-term review of our NX 250. Talk one more about comparing this to our previous NXs. It's been kind of a progression of disappointments. Our first NX we were happy with, felt like it rode a little rough. The second one, we bought it and did not pay close enough attention when we bought it. We've always bought the base level NX. We never bought the upgraded version that back then they had navigation. I don't even think any of them have navigation now. But because I never felt like it was worth that extra $3,000 or $4,000 for crappy navigation. Our first NX had memory seats. The second one we got, which was equipped the same way, had the same packages that we had on the first NX, didn't have the memory seats. We got home and we didn't realize till we got home that it didn't have memory seats. They took a feature away from us. So we were disappointed when we got home and found out we didn't have memory seats anymore, because it's one of the features we used. And this car did have memory seats, base level package. It came, they put the memory seats back in, but now the Apple CarPlay doesn't work. So it's almost like every time we get a new Lexus, there's something missing. There's something that we had before that we no longer have. And I don't know. We're pretty disappointed in this vehicle, and I've never been able to say that about a Lexus in my life. 30 years we've been driving Lexuses. I think I've had 8 or 9 of them. I might have them look at this windshield though. I don't know if that wave in the windshield, if that's normal. If you have a Lexus, have you noticed this? Because I can sit right here, move back and forth, and I can see this wavy feature in the windshield, and I don't think that's acceptable. I've never noticed that in any car I've ever owned. Let me know. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them down below. And also, I'd appreciate it if you'd subscribe to this channel. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and it's a new channel. I normally have a motorcycle related channel, but I decided to spin this off into a different channel. So please give the video a thumbs up if you got anything out of this. Please put in your comments. Please put in your questions. Please give the video a like, and I'll see you on the next Cruise Man Fixes Stuff.